I'll probably be in all the.
You're in the first podcast, Mark.
Yeah, and then people are gonna say, "Where's that Mark guy? I hated him. I'm glad he's
my
not
favorite
returning."
character in
No, no one's gonna say
Favorite
that.
guy.
He's my favorite guy.
No one's gonna say that.
He only talked about the Switch and Nintendo.
Heck
Why
yeah.
does nobody else talk about Nintendo on this podcast?
Nintendo is my favorite franchise.
And then there's gonna be me. It's gonna be like, there's that guy that always says the N-word and it gets edited out.
There's that guy that always talks about lollies for 2 seconds
Oh,
before
no.
they shut him down.
Oh man! Hello, welcome to the Insert Game Here podcast. This podcast is just a group of friends talking about games, gaming experiences, and gaming fantasies. Ooh,
Emphasis on fantasy.
fantasy.
Sexy.
Hentai games.
That's Garrett's.
Garrett's expertise.
Tell ya.
For our first episode, we're gonna kick things off by talking about the first game we remember playing, or the game that got us into gaming. Really to show where we got our roots as gamers. So we're just gonna go around the room. I'm not gonna start because I just read. So we'll start with Michael. Just talk
Oh man,
about your first.
you're gonna make me start.
Yeah,
Alright, okay, so Bibby, you already kind of know mine because I told you when we were doing D&D
That's right.
last week. But this goes to show how terrible my parents are
oh, no.
as people. So, and this also goes to show back where I started on my gaming is one of the old systems of the SNES,
Oh.
and it was Mortal Kombat. So, I was a toddler.
But oh no,
I was a toddler.
he was like in diapers.
I
playing Mortal
started-
Kombat.
I started my games playing Mortal Kombat on an SNES,
That's pretty wild.
and
Well, I mean,
And
that was
that's-
the less violent version.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. That was the one where you could do a lot of weird shit. The graphics were just terrible on that
Was
fucking
that
game.
the one where was that at the point where they like had the actual people?
Yeah, that was
playing
when they had the actual people
Yeah,
where they
so
had
like-
to videotape them or
it?
whatever,
Rip the
doing the
guy's
dumb fucking
spine
shit.
out, yeah, I'm pretty sure they really showed
but-
the guy's spine.
That was when they had the animalities, the babyalities, the fatalities.
All
But
your
yeah, no,
favorites.
that was what got me. I wouldn't say that got me into gaming, but that was the first game that I definitely remember
It was
playing.
like, yeah, I want to do this.
But yeah, no, Mortal Kombat. My parents are great. Letting toddlers fucking play rated M games.
That's pretty wild.
But yeah, on an SNES. So that shows how old I am.
All right, so
You might as well roll to me.
yeah, I'll roll over to Garrett because I feel like there might be a segue here.
Okay, well, the first system that I've got was also an SNES, and it was a hand-me-down.
Hell yeah!
That's what you do.
And one of the first games that got me into gaming was Mortal Kombat.
Yeah!
I also had Mortal Kombat. I got to the boss fight with the guy with 4 arms, and I couldn't beat him.
Goro.
Yeah.
That was
Goro.
fucking insane.
Dude,
But yeah, me and my cousin played him. That was like when I was 8, maybe something, because that game was also a hand-me-down.
Hell yeah.
dude.
And then I also played.
4 years after I played it, Garrett was playing it.
Yeah,
I never got hand-me-down games.
and then I also played Super Mario World too. That was my first Mario game, and I was like,
Super
"Oh,
Mario
this is
World.
legit."
Or Super Mario World 2. What are you talking
Oh,
about?
no, it was the one. It's the one with Yoshi on the front.
Dude, they all have Yoshi
What's that
on
one?
the front. Okay. Now for Mark. Gonna talk about the game that got him into gaming.
Oh yeah.
Mortal
Well, it's gonna be.
Kombat.
No, actually, it's quite the contrast. My first console was a Sega Genesis,
Mm.
Ooh.
Your
and the
favorite
first game I remember playing is Sonic 2.
Sonic 2.
Really?
Yeah.
With Tails?
Yeah.
And Knuckles?
No, Knuckles wasn't in
No,
that
Knuckles
one.
was
That
in
was a
Sonic
different
3.
game.
Was he in the
Yeah, it was the
one?
third one. It was Sonic and Knuckles.
Mm.
You
That's
know,
pretty good.
not to be confused with the porn.
What?
Just don't.
But yeah, it was my dad's system when he was a kid, or at some point in his life.
When he was a young adult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, when did that
When
come
he
out?
could
That
still
was in-
bend down without hurting himself.
Oh my.
My back.
But yeah, and then like shortly after that, he brought the NES as well. So I actually went backwards in time.
Okay.
Big ol'
I'd just say the other game before you go to yours, Bibby. The other
That's
game
fine.
I remember playing, I don't know if, well, because they both talked about the SNES, so I don't know if they remember this, but the fucking Lion King.
Dude. Was it
I
like
said-
Did any of you guys
I
fucking
said-
play that game?
No.
I said
said-
NES,
Yeah,
not
Mark said NES, which is
SNES.
even
Oh,
further.
whatever.
SNES is the only Nintendo console I have never had.
Oh, missing out though.
You're missing out.
And you call yourself a Nintendo fan.
I mean, Virtual Console fills the gap, so
Oh, okay. Well, I guess that leaves me for this question. I mean,
and that's all the time we have
that's
for
all the
today,
time. And
folks.
that's well, looks like we're out of time. No. So mine is kind of like, it's hard to like really place it because I remember a lot of different video games kind of being like ones I would play and I'd be like, oh man, I want to like keep playing that. And I want to play games more. I'd say the first game that like got me into gaming was probably the port of Donkey Kong Country onto the Game Boy Advance.
Of course it is.
Dude, that game, I remember it. So think back, guys. Remember the good old days of Walmart where they had like the like handhelds kind of like sticking out on those like arm things, and you could play the games.
I remember playing in Sears.
See, like Sears did that.
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace, yeah.
Rest in peace, Sears, and every
Father,
other store.
Son, Holy Spirit, Roman and Patsy.
Oh man. So like the Game Boy Advance was like my first like gaming system because I begged and pleaded for like any type of game, and I got the Game Boy Advance, Donkey Kong Country, and I think I had like Crash Nitro Kart, which was like the worst game ever looking back at it.
Dude,
but-
don't even say that.
No, it was terrible. It's like 2D
Dude, don't even say
sprites.
that.
2D sprites racing on a 3D.
Any Crash racing game is good.
Oh,
But of course, yours had
Anybody that watches this podcast, you know.
vote below. Is Crash racing game good or bad?
Hell yeah. And who's excited for that new one?
Who's excited?
yeah.
Because I am definitely getting that shit.
You know,
But of course, yours had to be Donkey Kong, Bibby, because you
Well,
always
yeah.
play him on Smash.
Because
I
you
always
love
played-
Donkey
The
Kong.
main-
was my favorite. But also like there was that game, which was like the first one I owned that got me really into it. But I also really remember playing one. I think it was the Mario. Which one was it? It was the Mario game. I think it was Super Mario World. It was like the one I
One
always
of the
played.
Super Mario Advance.
No, this was I would go over to like my aunts and uncle's place, and anytime I would like sleep over there, they had like an old NES, or maybe it was an SNES. I can't quite remember, but I would always play the one Mario game they had, and then they also had a Sega Genesis, and I would always play the original Sonic on that, which was pretty cool. I always really look back on that, and I'm like, oh hey,
Oh, hey.
that's pretty good. But yeah.
It's pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
I don't know. You guys talked about both, I guess, kind of.
Yeah.
Your first game that you remember playing and the game that got you into it. I mean, Mortal Kombat really didn't get me into gaming.
Got you into
I
other
kinda-
things.
I really fucking hated that game, honestly, because it was just so fucking annoying.
Yeah, and it was also difficult.
Yeah, especially for a 4-year-old.
Yeah.
Just button mashing.
Yeah, pretty much it was just me doing the fucking up punch in the air. Or
Yeah.
doing Sub-Zero's freeze.
Yeah.
And then
Actually-
the uppercut. That was it. Like, freeze, uppercut.
Yeah.
That's why you could
Actually,
never beat Goro.
because my game was a hand-me-down, I didn't have the manual, so I didn't know how to do the freeze, so it was only uppercut.
Like, but I'd say the game that really got me into gaming would have to be on the PlayStation 1. and that would be Digimon World 2.
Oh man.
Nice.
Yeah, no, none of you guys are real Digimon fans. Maybe Garrett.
No.
There's like
No, really?
there's like
Mm-mm.
there's like thousands of Digimon.
Yeah.
Well, I won't go that far.
How many Digimon are there? Someone look that up. I'm gonna look that up right now.
There's a couple hundred. I know that. I don't think there's 1,000.
It's there's a lot, dude. Are
There's
you
no way
sure
there's
Digimon
1,000.
was like your favorite game? How
There's
many
no way there was
Digimon?
1,000.
How many?
Well, not back then. There wasn't a fucking 1,000. Jesus Christ.
Digimon-
Dang it.
There are currently over 13.
Probably like 3,000.
There are currently over 1,300 Digimon. Yeah. How many Pokemon
Well,
are
back
there?
in 1999,
Back when I was a youngster.
there were not 1,300 fucking Digimon. There was a
How many
couple,
Pokemon?
probably about 500 back then.
So there are only 807 Pokemon currently.
Get on point, Pokemon.
That's
Okay,
not
Digimon
well,
is clearly the
that's-
better.
That's not including Gen 8, so that'll probably
Yeah,
go up
you know,
somewhere
add
in
3
between
more.
60 and
So
100.
it'll go from 807 to 8. It'll go to
Yeah.
807 to like 808.
810.
810.
Add those 3 starters. Those are the
Three
only new
starters,
ones.
Only new.
To just fill
They
in
don't
Gen
even get
1.
forms this time.
Wow.
They just transform into other previous Pokemon. That's
Yeah.
it. But no, Digimon World 2 is the one that got me really into gaming, and I think that also got me into my love of like RPGs and kind of like dungeon things. Because Digimon World 2 is pretty much just this game where you had a Digibeetle, which was just a vehicle you took into these dungeons, which were just the levels.
Mm-hmm.
And there would be Digimon in those dungeons, and you just went around and it was a dungeon crawler.
Man, like. I don't
And
know.
you had to play it. Like I put a shit ton of hours into that game, a
Yeah.
shit ton, because you
Yeah,
had
like,
to. They had a level cap, and you had to DNA Digivolve the fucking things, and then they would restart, and then they would get a little further, and then you'd have to do it again and restart. So you'd constantly be fucking catching new ones, and you'd put a lot of time into that fucking game.
Yeah.
Yep.
Still never beat it though. Never
Never
beat
beat-
that fucking game.
Speaking of that,
Unless
like,
it takes too long.
I hate to talk about Donkey Kong Country again, but I'm going
No,
to
you
talk
don't.
about Donkey Kong
No,
Country.
you don't.
No, that game, I got it. Oh man, someone's echoing bad. I don't know why. Ah, that's better. Oh, no, it's not. Anyway, yeah, there's still a little bit of an echo on Michael's end, but it's fine. Anyway, yeah, Donkey Kong Country, I had so much trouble with some of the levels because that was hard. That was a hard game to play. When I was young, because I didn't quite understand the concept of platformers, and I was just kind of running through levels, having fun. I wasn't trying to beat the game, which was
Back
the
when we
objective.
still had fun.
Back when you still had fun playing video games, so I would just replay levels that I liked or had fun with, and I would get to a hard level and I would like put the game away and just like never touch that level again. I'm like, oh man, there's like actually stuff beyond this hard level. I thought this was just like it, but
Yeah.
it took me like probably like if you lay it all out, it probably took me like 6 years to beat Donkey Kong Country just because I didn't try to beat it. But I play that. I
Mhm.
still play through that game to this day. I'll just go back and like do a playthrough and get through it pretty quick. And I'm on the quest to collect all 3 Donkey Kong Country games on the Game Boy Advance. They all exist. I have 1 and 2. I'm looking for 3. I'm like Thanos with the Infinity Gauntlet. But it's Mario, or not Mario, Donkey Kong Country games.
Well, that
We
brings up a
should
good
have aimed for the head.
You should
Bibby.
have aimed.
Like there's a lot of games now that like Final Fantasy X they remastered, Spyro and the Crash games they remastered.
Mhm.
And, like I remember whenever I was a kid playing those games, I thought they took fucking forever.
Dude,
hmm
And now I play through them now, and it's just like
if they...
this is the story.
If they
Yeah, same with Spyro.
Yeah,
hooked me
Spyro's
up.
done like that.
They hooked me up with the Donkey Kong Country remastered, but not in the new Donkey Kong Country engine, I would be like super happy. Because while I like Donkey Kong Country Returns and how it looks, I feel like the camera's way too far away from Donkey Kong. I can't like see anything. Just way too zoomed out. Like just move the camera guy in a little bit. That's all I want.
Move the camera, forehead.
Well, I have to say the things they did with Crash and Spyro, I very much like, and I can't wait for that CTR game to be coming out.
I can't wait for Crash Team Racing to come out. I don't know what you're talking.
CTR.
CTO. Oh yeah,
Yeah,
Crash Team.
Crash Team Racing. CTR. It's coming out next month, I think. Or maybe it's this month. No.
So
I have
a
think it's
thought
June.
that popped into my head.
That's dangerous.
So like, this is along the same lines, talking about, and this will probably be another go around, so I can start this one out to kind of explain it. So we mentioned, a lot of us mentioned like how, well, a few of us, mainly the two people that talked about Mortal Kombat, talked about how they didn't actually know how to play the game.
Hell yeah, man.
Like, do you guys remember like the first game you ever played that you actually knew what you were doing? Like, you actually understood, like, oh, there's like an objective here that I'm trying to like accomplish. Because I know personally, like, I would play games, but I wouldn't like quite comprehend what was going on. Like, I remember playing Melee on the GameCube, and I was just button mashing because I couldn't quite grasp the fact that there was like moves and combos.
Mm-hmm.
But like,
Elmo.
I remember the first game that I kind of like figured out that there was like a true objective to it all was like Legend of Zelda Phantom Hourglass on the Nintendo DS. Because like, I had never really played a game that had like a story-driven element to it, and that was the game that I was like, oh, so I'm actually striving towards a goal. That's another game that I couldn't figure out for a long time, because they incorporated a lot of elements to it that were stupid, and just tried to utilize the Nintendo DS software. So for example, one of the temples, you had to get into it by blowing out candles out in front of the temple. So you had to actually physically blow into the microphone while standing next to those candles. And
Yeah.
if you didn't do it, like there was like one sign on the island that told you how to do it, and that was it. Like, if you didn't find that sign, you were basically lost.
And don't forget about the one time in the temple where you have to draw the hourglass on the touch screen and then close your system and then reopen it to
Dude,
put it on the top
I've
screen.
definitely told you guys this story before, but that particular part of that game, I was playing that part like in the morning before school, and I just got so frustrated because I couldn't figure out what it wanted to do. It's like, oh, try and find a way to transfer this little icon to your other screen. I'm like, what? That doesn't even make any sense. Like, I tried drawing it, I tried like kind of like moving stuff around on the screen, and that didn't quite work. And then I had to get on the bus, so I just closed my system. And it just when I got back home, I opened it up and like the little the little Zelda jingle played.
Yep.
And I was like, oh, that's how you did it.
I wish I remembered this much about my childhood.
You know, I mean, repressed memories.
Like,
Alright.
fuck. That's very detailed, Bibby. I can't tell you a detailed story really about me gaming as a child.
Well, it's not about gaming as a child. It's like you kind of like where things kind of clicked. You know, you remember when things clicked, like a certain game you like played, and you're like, oh.
So you're saying like there was a game I was having a struggle with, and then finally something clicked?
It's kind of like, no.
Can be.
Or like
It
when I
can be.
finally went from like not understanding how to play a game to, oh, I picked up this new game and now I just know how to play it.
Yeah, kind of like that. You can do it either way you want, because it doesn't really matter. It's where we are the champions of our own destiny here.
Fuck, Bibby, you're really putting us on a spot here.
That's the whole point.
I would have to go with my first game that I remember on my PlayStation, which would be Sesame Street Elmo's Letter Adventure.
So you went from Mortal Kombat to
Elmo.
Elmo's Letter Adventure.
I told you my parents were fucked up, okay?
Was there a Sesame Street fighting?
Yeah, that's... Yeah, I just strangled fucking everybody with Snuffleupagus. He was my favorite character.
I'm a Snuffleupagus main.
His finishing move is where he took his trunk, shoved it up your ass, and ripped your spinal cord out that way. Yeah.
I'm still mad Snuffleupagus didn't make it into Mortal Kombat 11.
That seriously was a game that I played, though. That was my first game on PlayStation. But, no, that game was fucking retarded. No, that wasn't the one. I would have to say probably it would be Final Fantasy. Specifically, well, I mean, Digimon got me into like RPG stuff, but so did Final Fantasy. It was kind of around the same time that I had both of those. I was just really into Digimon at the time because Final Fantasy wasn't like huge around like where we grew up. I mean, not many people, like none of you guys played Final Fantasy when we were growing up.
No.
Nope.
But like
only my brother and I would play Final Fantasy that I knew of in our school.
Funny
we all went to school.
Funny you mentioned Final Fantasy. Like, that's another early gaming memory I have. Was I was hanging out with one of my relatives, and they were like going over to a friend's house to do something, and like their friend, this was a younger relative, and they were playing. The friend was playing like definitely one of the earlier Final Fantasies. Like, I mean, not earlier, but like. It was one of like the earlier 3D ones.
7, 8, or 9.
Yeah, it was like one of those, and like I still to this day kind of vividly remember the cutscene, and I like saw the cutscene as like a kid, and I'm like, man,
they're great.
These graphics are like insane. Which like looking back now, they look like trash.
Yep.
So,
especially
like,
7, where they're like weird shaped, like tritriangles and like.
Yeah.
So bad.
So yeah, we'll keep moving though. That makes me think of something else, but we'll keep put a pin.
But
in
no, I think Final Fantasy would probably be where I'm at, and I'm going to talk more about Final Fantasy in a different podcast thing that we have coming up because one of the episodes talks about like achievements and things like that. But and I'll get into that more, mostly because I have one disadvantage or one, I guess, difference compared to everybody else in our friend group, and that's that I'm the younger sibling in my family. I'm the baby in my family. You guys are all the older siblings.
Yep.
So I have a different angle on things, but I'll talk about that in a different podcast. But no, I'd say Final Fantasy is probably the one, or Digimon. Yeah. Where finally, because before Digimon World 2, I played Digimon World 1, but that game was so fucked up on how you played it and how like the mechanics worked and everything and the coding and all of it. It did not work right, and there were so many problems with that game. But no, so like probably Final Fantasy is where I was able to pick up a game and just play it and actually understand what I was doing and know the story. And even to this day, like I can go on Steam and just start Final Fantasy 9 or even 8 and just play it and know what I'm doing and know where I'm going, even though I haven't played it in so long, just because I played it so many times.
Yeah. All right, moving right along.
Well, Garrett and Mark.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say Mark can go. Chat about.
Mark even still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Yes, I'm still alive.
He's been awfully quiet.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, I don't really remember a time where I just kind of understood what I was doing. Like, I don't know. I feel like I can't really add anything right now.
He still doesn't understand what he's doing.
He still doesn't know how to play video games.
I've played the new
He's
Smash.
always learning.
Still button smashing.
I pick up the controller and I win. It just, I don't know. I don't get it.
But like when you played Sonic 2, did you understand that you were progressing through levels, or was it just like I'm playing this to like watch the pretty colors fly past?
I mean, no, I knew I was like going through levels. I wasn't very good at it back in the day. Like nowadays, I could probably play through the game with minimal continues, but back in the day, like getting to what was it? I think getting to Chemical Plant was an achievement. No.
God, what about that like
Casino Night
arcade? Yeah, the casino. That's what I was thinking. Jesus
Night.
Christ, I hate it.
The order of the levels in my head is all like jumbled, but I'm pretty sure that came after Mountaintop.
That casino one was awful.
But my favorite thing to do was I used to have the menu codes memorized.
Oh no. Oh.
So I would
Yep.
No. That reminds me of
for the kids that watch this podcast, maybe Mark should explain that.
Explain that.
Oh yeah.
You know, those aren't a thing anymore.
You see, kids,
back in the
day, debugging games wasn't that easy. So developers put in little secret menus for development purposes, so they could display debug information. And like players found out these codes because they were typically like meaningful numbers, like someone's birthday or a release date, something like that.
Yeah.
And it would unlock debug menus like level selectors. It would, in the case of Sonic, there was one that let you be supersonic. There was another one. Oh yeah, you could activate debug mode, which would let you turn into any item that was loaded into a level. And that was so much fun to play with.
Man, level codes reminds me of the good old days where save games weren't entirely like, not every developer knew how to do a save game.
Yeah.
Type in the
systems.
You
level
have to
code.
type in the level code and like have it written down. If you
God.
didn't remember
Yep.
though, then you just lost
Yep.
all your progress. Or if you lost the
Yep.
paper you wrote it down on. I had codes written down for Jimmy Neutron, Boy Genius on the Game Boy Advance.
Oh,
And then I
man.
lost them one day, and I was torn. I'm like, how could they do this? You can't
Oh,
even
was
find
that-
those. You can't even find
What-
those online.
Was that with Jimmy Neutron versus Jimmy Negatron?
No, this one was the Jet Fusion. Remember Jet Fusion?
Yeah, yeah.
Just me. Okay. It was like that kind of storyline. I mean, you got to fight Carl Weezer as like a giant. I'll put in the footage here. Hopefully someone has a recording of that boss fight, because that boss fight still haunts my dreams.
Dude, the game where I had to do that was Portal Runner on Game Boy Advance.
But no,
or Game Boy Color.
Jimmy Neutron, that was a hard game, especially because of like the limited lives, and also checkpoints were weird, and the weird code system was just like completely insane. I don't know. So Garrett,
Passwords.
do you know how to play video games? Did you ever have a time
Yeah.
when you didn't?
Because, well, whenever I had the SNES, I would go over to my cousin's house because that's where I got my hand-me-downs from. And she had a PS2. And I actually played Kingdom Hearts a lot when I was younger.
Yeah.
And then I got stuck on the one Riku battle. And
Which one?
the one after he transforms, like, in Hollow Bastion.
Okay.
Oh.
And
See, Garrett, I got you.
yeah. And then, like, as a kid, I was like, oh man, I do not know how to do this. I've tried this, like, so many times. So I took a break from it. About, like, might have been, like, 1.5 years. And then I came back to it. And then I was able to, like, overcome him. And I was like, wow, this is actually, like, really good. And then I started to, like, get a handle on, like, all the different things that were implemented into the game, like
There's a lot of
strike
things.
rate and all that other stuff. And I think that's fun. Okay, go
Especially
ahead.
with that game.
That's what
Yeah.
I figured out.
Like, that game, there's a lot of, like, combos that enemies will do, and the way that they actually fight. Specifically for Kingdom Hearts, though, like, I had a problem with the first Riku one on, what is it, Destiny Island or whatever it is?
Yeah, yeah.
Where you have to fight him just for fun.
hmm
That was a bitch.
Yeah, I thought that was required, so I kept trying to beat him. Yeah.
All right. Well, last little tidbit here, because I thought of like one last question. We're gonna do
titty
this.
bitties.
We're gonna do this in a speed round fashion. So
Oh, shit!
each presenter will get 1 minute to you know what, 30 seconds. I don't like any of you.
Can you cue the Mario Kart music? Dun, dun, dun,
I'll
dun,
I'll
dun.
put Mario Kart music over this.
Or Jeopardy music.
So everyone gets 30 seconds to describe this, because I feel like it shouldn't take more than 30 seconds. And if you go
Are we gonna
over-
know, like, this
I'm gonna
isn't
tell
gonna be,
you.
like, we need to think?
No, I mean, it shouldn't take you that long to kind of figure it out.
You sprung another question on us.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta figure it out.
I wasn't ready.
The last question I have is, remember a time. Okay, so we were talking about Final Fantasy graphics, and looking back at it, you kind of like see like, oh, this game looks like garbage. but at the time you thought it looked amazing. So just shoot me with like a specific memory of a game that you look back at it now and you're like, I thought this game looked better, but it actually didn't. So I'll start. I got 30 seconds. I remember playing Smash Bros. Melee at one of our friend's house that no one would know if I said it on the podcast, so I'm not even gonna bother.
Well, you should, because you might be on the podcast.
Well, it was Joe's house. We were playing Smash Bros. Melee, and I look back at Melee today, and I'm just like, this game still plays average, but like, looks like trash. Okay, that's my 30 seconds. So, Michael, whenever you're ready, I will start the clock.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Whenever you start talking.
I mean, I'm gonna have to go with
There you go.
Legend of Dragoon.
Okay.
I mean, it was kind of like a Final Fantasy game, but no, they had really neat graphics and one of kinds of like a unique fighting style and everything like that with the fighting system. But damn, it's terrible now.
Yeah.
Compared to what they have now, it's awful.
Man,
Okay.
like a champ. All right, who's next? Garrett, go.
Okay. I would say good old Spyro.
Oh god.
Yeah, I thought Spyro's graphics were like really good, and I've also played Melee, but I've played Spyro more because I've only played Melee whenever I went over to someone else's house that actually had a GameCube.
That's true.
So
John.
yeah, and then I saw the new remake of Spyro, and I'm like, whoa, this isn't what I remembered.
Yeah, I'll bring up an interesting thing about that. Alright, there's your 30 seconds. Mark, whenever you're ready.
Okay, I can't really think of anything specific, but like maybe like a lot of games from the GameCube era.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Like I don't know, like even for some reason I can't bring myself to say anything N64 because like they don't exactly look better than I remember. They look the same. But like GameCube games, like they're always too shiny when they shouldn't be.
That's true. Alright,
Like I don't know, not all games, but I feel like my 30 seconds is up.
And Mark went over the 30 seconds, making him tonight's big loser.
Tonight's big loser.
Put like a
no.
dunce cap on him in the video or something.
I just feel like one needs to definitely be said though, Bibby, and
Okay.
that's Pokemon.
Pokemon.
If
Yeah.
you look at the original buds, what it is,
Oh man.
no more pixels, no more little squares.
I mean, I had an interesting thought. Oh, but you know, like, we're looking at these remasters now, like, do you think there will come a day? This isn't a question, this is more of just like a thought to kind of wrap things up. Like,
Leave it in the comment.
there will probably come a day where we look at these remasters and they don't live up to what we have at that current point. Like remasters, like just the way technology goes,
Reality.
it's always gonna get better. So
Yeah.
like we're gonna have a day where we look back and like, oh man, can you believe Spyro Remastered is getting remastered for the new console? Like that's just the world we live in. That's what's gonna keep happening.
I can be
Kingdom
Spyro.
Hearts.
Anything with like a realistic graphic style is going to have that happen much earlier.
Exactly.
Yep.
Well, that was pretty cool.
So, anyone watching, let us know what your thoughts are on your gaming experiences and the questions we asked.
Yeah, leave any comments. If you wanna ask us anything, we might put it on the show. You never know if there's even any comments on this at all. If anyone even watches this, thanks.
Please
you.
comment, I might cry.
Please comment. Mark would actually cry. If we get 10 comments on this video, I will post a video of myself crying.
If we get 500 likes, Mark will cry.
500 likes, Mark will cry.
If we get 500 likes, I'll be able to keep my apartment.
Oh no. Yeah. If you don't like this
Help
video,
Mark not get evicted.
1 like equals 1 mark not on the streets. Alright, well thank you for listening to the Insert Game Here podcast. We hope you enjoyed. Continue to listen in. There will be many other episodes after this, hopefully. If you're watching this if you're watching
Give those likes.
if you're watching the highlight reel, There'll be a link in the description to the full podcast without anything cut out. And we'll catch you next time. Anyone got anything to say before we go? Any other?
Nothing
Goodbye.
I'm allowed to say.
Well, don't say it. Don't say it. But like maybe say it, and then I'll just like cut it right before you say it.